Assalamu alaikum dear students. I hope so you all are doing well and enjoying great time at your home. This is me your biology teacher with another video of revision class. Dear students, in today's class we are going to revise a few topics from chapter number 11, that is homeostasis. So in this class we are going to revise question number 13, 14, 15 and 16. Question number 13, that is explain that kidneys play an important role in osmoregulation. Uh, Dear students, you know that kidneys are excretory as well as osmoregulatory organ. Kidney plays a important role in both excretion and osmoregulation. And excretion and osmoregulation both are the process of homeostasis. Both are actually types of homeostasis. Kidneys are the major excretory organ in our body which excrete the nitrogenous waste in the form of urine. Along with excretion, kidney also play an important role in osmoregulation, and we can say that kidneys are osmoregulatory organ of our body. Osmoregulation is the type of homeostasis in which the water and solute level is maintained inside the body. So as an osmoregulatory organ, kidneys maintain the water and solute balance inside the body. When there is limited amount of water in the body, the reabsorption of water in the kidney increases. As a result, the net volume of the urine decreases and water is conserved in the body. Dear students, as you can see in the diagram over here, a nephron is given. This is the diagram of the nephron, which is the structure and the functional unit of the kidney. Millions of nephrons are present in the kidney, and this nephron is that part of the kidney in which the process of the urine formation takes place. So when there's limited amount of water, when there's less amount of water in the body fluid, in the blood, here in the glomerulus, when there's limited amount of water, so when this water is filtered out and it gets into the Bowman's capsule, so here more reabsorption will take place. The water will again become the part of the blood from the tubular region of the nephron. The water moves toward the blood, right? So when there is limited amount of water in the body, the reabsorption of water in the kidney increases. The reabsorption of water from the glomerular filtrate, from this region, the reabsorption of the water increases from this tubular region, and the water again become the part of the blood. As a result, the net volume of the urine decreases. As a result, the net volume of the urine decreases and the water remains inside the body fluid, inside the blood. So by this way, the water is conserved in the body. Okay, when there's excess water in the body fluid, it is the opposite of the limited water. So the opposite process will take place when there's excess water in the body fluid. The reabsorption of water in the kidney is reduced. The reabsorption is reduced and more water remain in the renal tubule. As a result, the net volume of urine decreases and extra water is released from the body. Whenever there is more water in the body fluid in the blood, the reabsorption of the water in the kidney is reduced, less water is reabsorbed, right? So when less water is reabsorbed, the water remains inside the renal tubule, inside the tubular region of the nephron. As a result, the more water is present in the urine and the net volume of the urine increases and that water is excreted out of the body. So by this way, we can get rid of that extra water, right? Okay, this process is done with help of a hormone that is called ADH, antidiuretic hormone, which is secreted by our pituitary gland. And when ADH is secreted in the body, it increases the reabsorption, right? When there is limited supply of water in the body, when there is limited amount of water in the body fluid, the pituitary starts secreting ADH hormone. As a result, it increases the reabsorption in the kidney and the water is conserved in the body. And whenever there is more water, whenever there is excess water in our body or in our blood, and the pituitary stop the secretion of the ADH, as a result, the extra water is released in the form of urine. Now coming toward the next question, that is how does diabetes cause kidneys disease? You know, diabetes is a condition of high sugar level in the blood, and whenever there is a high sugar level in the blood, it damages the glomerulus of the nephron. Glomerulus, as you know the structure of the nephron, glomerulus is that part of the nephron which we can say that it is the filtrating unit or the filter of the nephron. So it is actually a network of blood capillaries. So whenever there is high sugar in the blood, it damages the glomerulus. It damages the blood vessels, the blood vessels of the glomerulus. When blood vessels get damaged, they are unable to filter the blood properly. So the damaged blood vessels in glomerulus cannot clean the blood properly. As a result, it results in more salts in the body and which cause weight gain, ankle swelling, etc. So diabetes can harm the kidney, even it can leads to renal failure. Okay, as you can see in the diagram over here, In the healthy kidney or in the healthy nephron, the glomerulus is like this, right? And only the nitrogenous waste and some extra water, etc., will move toward the Bowman's capsule region, toward the tubular region. But whenever there is a condition of diabetes, these vessels of the glomerulus, these blood vessels get damaged, and when they get damaged, they become porous. As a result, proteins start leaking out of the blood vessels, and it moves toward the urine. Okay, the next question is, what are kidney stones and how they are formed? Kidney stones, which are also known as renal lithiasis or nephrolithiasis, they are hard stone-like structure. They are hard deposits which are made up of mineral salts formed inside the kidney. You know that the kidney is responsible for the filtration of harmful material from the blood, right? Kidney filter out the harmful material from the blood. Sometimes these harmful materials start aggregating inside the kidney, and when they aggregate together, when they accumulate together, they form large crystal-like structures which are termed as stone. So stone-like hard material, which are also called calculus, formed in the kidneys are called kidney stone. Stone-like material which is formed as a result of aggregation of different crystals of harmful substances or different crystals like of calcium and oxalate, etc. Such stone-like substances are termed as kidney stones. Okay, now coming toward formation of kidney stones, you know that kidney filter harmful substances from the blood, or they filter the extra substances from the blood. So sometimes these substances start gathering in the kidney, start accumulating or aggregating in the kidney, and they make larger crystal. They combine together and make large structure, large particles, which cannot pass in the urine, which cause obstruction in the urinary tract. They cause blockage. Sometimes these stones remain inside the kidney, and sometimes they move toward the ureter or to the urinary bladder and get trapped in the urinary bladder or in the ureter. Okay, the stones are always formed in the, mostly they are formed in the kidney region, but sometimes they remain in the kidney and sometimes they move toward the tube, toward the ureter and get trapped there. They cause obstruction in the passage for the urine, and they can cause blockage of the urine. They can also get in the urinary bladder and get trapped there. Okay, now coming toward causes of kidney stone, kidney stone can be caused by some metabolic problems or by improper diet, like more calcium oxalate, calcium and ammonium phosphate in the diet can cause accumulation of these minerals or these crystals inside the kidney, as a result which can leads to kidney stone, and they are present in green leafy vegetables, etc. Extra amount of vitamin C and vitamin D in the diet can cause kidney stone. And then if there is less water intake, because water is very much important for the kidneys, water acts as a flushing medium. It removes all the crystals from the kidney. But if there is less intake of the water, it can also leads to concentrated urine. And as a result of the concentrated urine, the crystals in the urine start accumulating inside the kidney, which leads to kidney stone. Similarly, excess uric acid in the blood can cause kidney stone. UTIs, urinary tract infection, like different infection caused by bacteria, etc., can also cause kidney stone, and alcohol consumption is also one of the cause of kidney stone. Coming toward the symptoms, severe pain in the kidney or the lower back, nausea, vomiting, burning in the urethra, frequent urination, bad smelling urine, foul smelling urine, and blood and pus in the urine, because sometimes stones can also damage in the kidneys or the urinary tract. So there is a blood or pus in the urine, and bloating, swelling of the abdominal region are some of the symptoms of kidney stones. Okay, the most common type of stones are termed as calcium oxalate stone. Although kidney stones are made up of different types of material depending upon which type of crystals aggregate together. But the most common type of stones are calcium oxalate stone. Almost 70% of the stones are calcium oxalate stone in the kidney. And oxalate are actually present in green leafy vegetables and tomatoes, etc. So by taking too much green leafy vegetable or tomatoes, etc., can lead to calcium oxalate stone in the kidney. Okay, now coming toward the treatment, how kidney stones can be removed from the body. There are different ways by which kidney stones can be removed. We are going to discuss the three ways. The first one is plenty of water, second one is surgery, and the third one is lithotripsy. Okay, small size stones which can pass through the urine can be removed by drinking plenty of water. By drinking more water, the stone can pass through the urine. But if the stone is small in size, if it is not getting trapped in the whole passage in the urinary tract, then it can pass through the urine with intake of more water. Okay, then for the large size stone, surgery is performed. In this method, patient's kidney, ureter or bladder is open and stones are removed from the kidney or the ureter or bladder. Okay, the recent treatment is lithotripsy, which we also call it laser treatment. It is a non-surgical treatment. It works best for stones between 4 mm to 2 centimeter in diameter and which are located in the kidney, not in the ureter, because it is not much successful for the ureter, etc., or the urinary bladder, etc. It is much more successful for the kidney stones, the stones that are located in the kidney. And in this method, stones are targeted by shock waves, and high energy waves target the stone, as a result of which the stone breaks and the stone is converted into tiny pieces or a powder like structure, and these pieces are passed out of the body in urine. So by this way, the stones are bombarded with high energy waves, and which convert the stone into a powder like structure, and that pieces or that powder like structure comes out of the body when the person or when the patient urinate. Okay, so this was all about today's revision class. Now you have to revise these questions, that is question number 13, 14, 15 and 16 of chapter number 11. Thank you so much. Stay blessed.